Well, Rob, I want to thank you for your time today. And I want to start off. I'm an analytical guy, big time into baseball analytics. And you being with the Yankees, who are a very analytical organization, especially with their catchers, how has working with them and Tanner Swanson affected you and your outlook on catcher and specifically framing?
Oh man, um, they they completely revamped my playing career. I believe my catching metrics before coming in with the Yankees, I don't even think we're that good. And I got traded over there in 2020 and went to the alt site in Scranton, met their catching coordinator Aaron Gershenfeld, and communicated with Tanner, and we got right after it and just dove right into um, all the things at which they believe in analytically and how our physical preparation to that kind of like helps put ourselves in a good position to receive better. And they completely changed my approach at receiving and catching, and have since like revamped my defensive career.
Going back to all that Aaron Judge stuff. Do players in the organization find out what's going on through t Twitter, or do you guys do you hear stuff from the front office, from teammates, or how do you guys find out information in the offseason?
Um, that's a good question. I think when it pertains to individual players in situations like that, um, it's personal. Going through like negotiation processes, making big decisions where um, like you really need to kind of have like a reflection period, self-reflection about what's best. Um, like I don't think any player would find out until it's announced.
Mhm.
Um, if Aaron Judge has players that he's like more close to and like kind of like within that like trusted circle, like maybe he does reach out and get their advice, and maybe they know beforehand. Um, but yeah, I would say like mostly in that process, it's a personal, thing, a big decision you got to make for yourself.
Yeah,
Nice.
and then just to kind of follow up to that, when the big reporters tweet out that a team has interest in a player, do you, as a player, like really pay attention to that, or do you think it's just agents trying to run up their client's price or whatever?
Say that question again.
So when a reporter, John Heyman, Passon, tweets out that a team has interest in a player, are you guys actually paying attention to that, or are you just thinking, oh, it's an agent running up their client's price?
I know personally, I don't give like much thought to it, just because like nothing's final until it's final. I think we've seen that a number of times this off seasons with guys trying to like lock up deals and stuff like that, and like you just never know what happens. So like until something's official, right? You wait till then, and yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm currently a high school baseball player, and I want to ask you, how was your
Boy,
scouting process like when you were in high school with colleges or any pro teams were involved? Just want to know, like, what was the
I
process?
I've been looking at that recently, like just out of curiosity of like what it's like now compared to what it was like when I was going through that process, and I think it's evolved so much. I mean, there weren't as many, because you said you're in the analytics. There weren't as many devices made yet to really analyze players. There wasn't Rapsodos, TrackMans. Oh, my wife's leaving. uh,
See,
um,
Bye,
well,
Rob.
Thank you for his time.
they say bye.
Thank you for his
Um,
time, like
Thank
you
you for his
said.
time.
but there weren't as much of as those analytical tools. A lot of it was still done by sight and scouting and cross checkers, um, and a lot of it had to do with circumstance. Um, like so for me, when I first got my first look, it was because I was catching a guy in high school, Shane Peterson. He ended up going to the big leagues, I think, with the Brewers for a little while in Tampa in his career, but he was pitching, and so the scouts came, the cross checkers came to watch him play, and I was just a freshman in high school, but I had a great game. I got a couple hits, threw a couple guys out, got the game winning hit, and all of a sudden I received my first letter. And
Woo.
from there, it just kind of like started to pick up. You get invited to these events, these like weekend games, and like where scouts can come and see you compete against, you know, like people that they've seen and liked. And that's kind of how it went. You kind of got your exposure that way. Whereas like now, with all this information sharing, with all everything you see on Instagram, with everything you can share from Rapsodo, Trackman, and all that, like it's pretty incredible, like the amount of talent that they're able to find now. Like nothing slips through the cracks, and you're starting to see it in the lower levels of professional baseball. Like the talent gap is not very far anymore. Like guys are very very poised coming into professional baseball, and like the talent working its way up is just very impressive.
Hmm. Amazing.
One question I have, and going back to the analytics and framing side of things, there's a lot of talk about the robot strike zone, whatever you want to call it. How do you think that's going to impact like the position of catcher? Because you're not going to need that defensive first catcher anymore.
That's interesting. I think when you say you're not going to need that defensive catcher, I think we're forgetting about the other elements of the game back there. Yes, that does eliminate one important factor, which is a major factor, right? Is the pitch framing, right? Being able to keep strikes, maybe gaining a few strikes, or but the importance of blocking, the importance of throwing, the importance of managing a game, making your plays, um, like that sort of thing, those priorities just increase, and you're just going to have to be that much better at them. Those will still be recorded, pop times down to second base, accuracy down to the base, all that will still be recorded. And those who do that the best will be, right, the best catchers and the best defensive, catchers in the game. Um, so I think it's just becomes about mastering your craft back there, with the things that become a greater priority.
Hmm. Hmm. Jerry?
Um, I want to go back to a game from 2021, and it's also in the Boston series. You might know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
The ninth inning, you're catching Brooks Kriskey's on the mound. Obviously, you know what happened. How is it back in the locker room after a situation where a team blows a game like that? Is it, I mean, I know you guys aren't pointing fingers or anything, but how hard is it to like deal with that guilt?
I think the first step in a situation like that is taking ownership. Especially for me as a catcher, I got to take ownership of the things that I could have done differently to help minimize the damage there. Because as much of anything, like the catchers are always involved. So for me, it like especially after the fact, because like it's happened, it's not going to go away. There's no do-overs. You take ownership of it, and you're like, I got to find some way to grow from this, some way to learn from this, so that like one, it doesn't happen again, because it's not a good feeling. um Two, right, so like when you're faced with it again, um that you can have a more positive outcome. um you know um and you also like take ownership so that you don't wallow in it, and it spirals into something worse. So I think that would be the first step. I think as soon as you start taking ownership, like you can start to grow. I think that's what helps a clubhouse kind of get out from like wallowing in a game like that. And yeah, that was a tough one, but like I said, you definitely grow from it, and you make sure it does not happen again.